Different forms of literature, broad types and subgenres. 1. Prose refers to written or spoken language in its ordinary form, without a metrical structure. Examples: fiction, imaginary stories created by an author. Novel, for example, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Short story, for example, The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. Novella, for example, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Non-fiction, based on real events and facts. Biography, for example, Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. Autobiography, for example, The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Memoir, for example, Educated by Tara Westover. Essay, for example, Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Journalism, for example, news articles or investigative reports. 2. Poetry is a literary form that uses aesthetic and rhythmic qualities of language. Examples: lyric poetry expresses personal emotions. For example, Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Narrative poetry tells a story. For example, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Epic poetry, long poems about heroic deeds. For example, The Odyssey by Homer. Haiku, short, structured Japanese poetry, for example. Matsuo Basho's haikus, free verse, poetry without a specific rhyme scheme. For example, Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. 3. Drama is literature intended for performance. Examples: tragedy focuses on human suffering. For example, Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Comedy, light-hearted and humorous. For example, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. Historical drama, based on historical events. For example, Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Musical, combines dialogue, music and dance. For example, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, adapted into a musical. One-act play. Short dramas. For example, Riders to the Sea by J.M. Singh. 4. All literature, stories, myths, and traditions passed down through speech. Examples: fables, stories with morals. Legend cemetery stories tribe past. For example, The Legend of King Arthur. Myths, stories explaining natural phenomena or cultural beliefs. For example, Greek mythology, the story of Zeus. Folktales, traditional tales of a culture. For example, Cinderella. Epic tales, oral narratives about heroes. For example, Beowulf. 5. Hybrid forms combine elements of multiple genres. Examples: prose poetry, a blend of prose and poetry, for example. Baudelaire's prose poems. Graphic novels, told through images and text. For example, Mouse by Art Spiegelman. 6. Digital and emerging forms are modern, internet-based forms of literature. Examples: travel blogs or lifestyle essays. Fan fiction, stories written by fans based on existing works. For example, Harry Potter fanfics. Hypertext literature, non-linear, digital works with hyperlinks. For example, online interactive novels. 7. Letters and speeches are expressive forms of communication. Examples: letters, personal or formal correspondence. For example, Letters of Vincent van Gogh. Speeches, persuasive or informative addresses. For example, I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King Jr.